In this video, we're gonna redesign the legendary Subaru Impreza WRX STI 22B, a very special model in the lineup. I'm gonna take the new one, the 2022 model, turn it into a two-door, obviously, lower it a little bit. I think maybe it sits a little high, work on the graphics, put an M3 diffuser in the rear end, and we're gonna see how that is going to turn out. But before we do that, let's have a look at this beautiful lineup of STIs right here. This is 1994. Took the final assembled WRX and applied STI parts onto it once it was completed, and that's how they came out with the STI. I love this design. It reminds me a lot of my childhood. It comes back, Colin McRae Rally. I used to play that a lot, and the car I always picked was the blue Impreza STI. I love this design. Even though it looks like a pretty normal car, this has a little bit of Camry in it at the front end of the same era, but then you have this bumper that shows that this is not just your ordinary Ford or sedan. You have big rally lights in the front end, a big intake for the intercooler right here, and also these fantastic wheels that I think looks great on this car. I would love to have it in blue with the gold graphics on. I'm gonna add that into my redesign. And this was called the Mean Eye. As you know, all of these Subaru WRX models, they have some nicknames for their headlights. So as we go through the generations, I'm gonna let you know what all of those are. So here we have the 2001 Bug Eye, and you can definitely see why this is called Bug Eye, because this definitely looks like the eye of an ant or something like that, with a lot of things going on inside of this. It got a lot of criticism when it first came out, but I think over the years this has become a very special design. I think it's one of the coolest WRX designs because it looks so different than everything else, and it's such a step forward or away from the original STI up there. I think this looks cool. This has a super functional design, a very proper rally car styling. Rally cars are not supposed to be beautiful. They're supposed to be functional and aggressive in its styling. You can see that, for example, these slots in the front bumper and down here. And I also like that the grille is inverted. The end points of the grille points outwards instead of having it be normal, more traditional like this. I think we had that, maybe not in the first generation, but it's gonna come back in the newer generations, which I'm gonna show you in just a bit. I do like this design. It's not a pretty design at all, but it just looks cool, and specifically in this blue in combination with these gold wheels, which is typical STI colors. Moving down to the Blob Eye. This is actually a facelift of the Bug Eye in 2004, and this same here, this is one of my favorite designs of the Subaru Impreza STI. I love the wheel arches that are widened. We still have the gold wheels in a very simple design, which I think suits this car. I wish we had this bumper in the 2004 model, because this looks less refined and more rally style than it does on the facelifted 2004 Blob Eye model right here. So combine this bumper with this front fascia and these lights, I think we would have a really cool looking Subaru. So moving down to the last face, this is actually a facelift. This is the original, and then this is the first facelift, and then we go down to the second facelift in 2006 with the Hawkeye design. Before we go any further in the video, I have a pretty exciting announcement from today's sponsor, Omaze. Omaze's sustainable approach to fundraising means that nonprofits can spend less time and money raising funds and instead focus on serving the needs of their communities. And to date, Omaze has raised over $150 million for charity, with the goal to raise over $1 billion in a single year. And I'm excited to be working with Omaze once again to offer you the chance to win this exact all-electric Hummer EV Edition 1, and at the same time support a great cause, Rebuilding Together. Part of our Rebuilding Together do is to address the long-term recoveries of communities struck by natural disasters, and this hits pretty close to home for me because we moved out of Florida right before the Hurricane Ian hit, which caused some serious damage to many of our friends' properties. Now, the Hummer Hummer EV is nothing less than a beast. Here's what you get. You get 1,000 horsepower, 11,500 pound-feet of torque, 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, a towing capacity of up to 7,500 pounds, 329 miles of range, and a retail price of around $112,500. As I'm sure you know, the Hummer EV was built to go over almost anything, and by entering for your chance to win, you'll skip right over the almost 3-year waiting list to get one. Simply go to omaze.com/TSM to enter for your chance to win. Again, for your chance to win this awesome Hummer EV Edition 1, go to omaze.com/TSM and enter now. Donations support the great work of rebuilding together, and thank you to Omaze for sponsoring this video. I'm not sure I like this approach from Subaru design team. I do love the side is still pretty much intact as we have in the 2004 model. The wheels are the same as well, and the side looks pretty similar. But then this part gets a little more, even more refined. So the front bumper looks sleeker and less purposeful to be a rally car bumper. And in addition, look at what happened to the grille. We have this inverted grille that stretches pretty far and wide in the front end, but now we have this Tribeca style Subaru grille, which I'm not really a fan of. I don't think it looks that great to have this piece in the middle and then 2 intakes on the side. I definitely prefer these two over this 2006 facelift. Now moving on to the 2008 Stink Eye down here. I love these names for the headlights. So the big change here is that we now get an STI hatchback, and I love this design. Looking at this from a side view, it looks like a compact, short wheelbase, proper rally car proportions when you look at this hatchback. I think it suits the car, and it also makes it look a lot tighter than having a sedan. But you also had the sedan down here, as you can see, in 2011. But if I were to pick one of these, I would definitely go with the hatchback in this case. I also love these wheels and the widened fender that we have right here. It looks super aggressive, super rally car-ish, even though the front end looks maybe a little too weak. I want to have big rally lights in the bumper right here, like we have in the Blob Eye, for example, in the Bug Eye. Moving down to 2015, now we're coming into the current generation, or the modern generations. This is called the Raptor Eye here, and I think this is a pretty design. Maybe that's not the right word you want to have when you're describing a rally car, but I think it has a nice styling to it while retaining these big fenders, and you can see that something is going on with this. This is not just your normal four-door sedan, and you also have this big wing in the rear end. I think this is a gorgeous looking design, but it looks almost too traditional in the front end. Compare this to the Bug Eye up here. Just what a difference in personality you have in these two designs. This looks like a normal sedan that just added some rally parts to it. I do love these wheels as well. Still have the gold in combination with the blue color, which I think looks really good on any Subaru Impreza. And moving down to the current generation, I'm not sure if this has a nickname for the headlights yet, but I think the headlights look pretty small in this design. It's still a very interesting looking design. You can see that the grille from the 2015 model, it kind of grew a little bit, but still has the same outline, and it looks pretty sharp in the front end. But same thing here, we're lacking these rally parts. I want it to look like some parts of the front end of the STI specifically. We don't have a new STI yet, so this is just a WRX model of the 2022 model. But I want to have some parts look like they are almost aftermarket parts in this specific car, like we have in the first two generations right here, with this bumper that has, almost looks like this is an aftermarket fog light in the bumper, and I think it adds to the rally car feel of the STI. Now looking at this, I've made a redesign of this. What I'm going to do in this case is to make these body colored, for example, these fenders, because I don't think it looks specifically good to have them in black plastic like this. It makes it look like it's sitting higher, and I want to bring it down to the ground, and also move back the A-pillar and create a two-door design out of this. So that's what we're going to jump in and do right now. So let's talk a little bit about the Subaru Impreza STI 22B that came out in 1998. So this was of course produced in Japan in 1998. It was a wide-bodied version of the WRX STI called the 22B STI, and it was produced between March and August of 1998. And guess what? They created 400 Japanese units, and they sold out in anywhere from 30 minutes to 48 hours, depending on who you're asking. So these were very popular car, and it has 280 horsepower and 268 pound-feet of torque. And it was created to celebrate Subaru's 40th anniversary, as well as their third consecutive manufacturer title for Subaru in the FIA World Rally Championship. The car was given a unique color of blue and had fenders flared widened, taken from the Peter Stevens designed WRC car, and this made the car 80 millimeters wider than the stock car. And the car had a unique hood, front and rear fenders, a WRC inspired front bumper, and a unique adjustable rear wing as well. And during assembly, a WRX Type R chassis was taken off the line, and the fenders were replaced with the 22B STI fenders. You also had a different suspension from Bilstein, and the brakes were painted red. The wheel size increased from the standard 16 inches, they went up to 17 inches for a 22B, and it's not really sure where the 22B name comes from. Some people think it refers to the 2.2 liter displacement, and the B is thought to be for the Bilstein suspension. Now, looking at the redesign of this, I think the new WRX looks a little boxy. Boxy is not the right word. I think the Subaru WRX, specifically the STI Imprezas, it doesn't matter if they look boxy, but I think it looks a little static. I think static is the better word to use for it, specifically when you look at it in a rear view. I think the diffuser sits too high. I want to bring it down. I made a redesign specifically of the rear end of the new WRX to kind of work with the graphics and the diffuser to make it look wider and kind of shrink everything down and have it be more tight and narrow in the rear end. And I think this change that I'm going to do in the rear end here, in combination with turning this into a two-door coupe and turning the black cladding around the wheels into body colored, and also change the wheels. And at the very end, I'm gonna add some graphics onto this car, the typical Subaru Rally graphics in kind of this neon green gold color, and also have the brake calipers of the new wheels that I'm gonna add here be in the same color as the decal that we have on the side. I think it's gonna look really cool. This was a really fun redesign to do, and I hope Subaru maybe in the future creates something like this. I don't think so, because they say that the current WRX is going to be the last one that is what it is, a four-door sedan with a manual transmission. Hopefully they're not going to go in the direction where they just slap the Impreza STI nameplate onto a crossover SUV. That would be totally wrong to do something like that for the next generation. But something like this is probably not going to happen, although it would be really cool to see. Thanks again to Amaze for sponsoring this video. Enter below for your chance to win a Hummer EV. Link down in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.